Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and it's finally time where I can start sharing my feelings on the DLC and Immortal Empires. So what I want to do is do two videos because it just kind of makes sense. And in this video I want to talk about the Immortal Empires. This is free DLC if you own all three games, so I don't want to pair it next to a DLC. We're going to talk about everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and yeah, let's just jump right in. So the Immortal Empires is the mega map. It's the combination of Game 1, Game 2, and Game 3, where you'll be able to play as every different race and faction introduced into the series, provided that you own the appropriate content. So that means that if you want to play as the Tomb Kings, the Beastmen, the Wood Elves, the Vampire Coast, those you'll need to buy extra DLC for, which, you know, this is a long-standing series. It's been out for a few years now, and you've probably started picking up that DLC as time has progressed or through many Total War sales. Nonetheless, the promise of a mega map has been hyped up since the very beginning of the series, and now we finally have it. Now we have as close to the Warhammer fantasy world as we could have expected. Hell, in the start of the series, I never expected even Grand Cafe. I honestly expected it to go all the way to the Mountains of Morn and be done there, yet Grand Cafe is in the game. We've got Ind and Koresh, which are currently unavailable. We know it's completely possible for map extensions, but let's not talk about the future, let's talk about the now. So like I said, the map is absolutely massive, something that I never really expected. We've had big Total War games, but never in this scope and scale. Yes, you need 3 games, but it's kind of made sense with how Warhammer is. It's not a historical game. There's so much that needed to be done here because there's different races, there's different factions, and we've got an absolutely massive world. It's honestly kind of overwhelming at the very beginning, but not in the bad way. This is something that I have dreamed of for many, many years. For context, I've been playing Total War games since Rowan 1, and I always wanted a Warhammer game like this. I always wanted a Total War Warhammer, I just never really thought that this could be possible. Now, that's obviously been proven wrong as time has progressed, but even then, I wanted to know what the big world map was going to be. I wanted to know how much we could destroy, maybe save, or just enslave if we wanted to. Now, before we actually jump right in, we do need to talk about the fact that it's a beta. So, they're calling this a beta, and there's a few reasons for it. One, and let's be very honest, is to cover their asses. This is a very big game, and we know that there were issues when Mortal Empires launched. That's the problem when there are so many different factions, which are very, very different. There are, what, 26 races in total? And that means that they're all different with different mechanics. It's not like a historical game where everything kind of acts in the same way. Yes, they are very different, but it's not the same, let's be very honest here. But yeah, they're trying to cover themselves, and I guess that kind of makes sense. The fact is that this game will never really feel complete until it is fully complete, when every race, faction, legendary character, and unit has been added in. So in the current state, I will not really consider this released. Even though I've spent many hours in the past 2 weeks since the embargo dropped, I can tell you that I have dropped over 150 hours into this game, not counting the early access period where I was allowed to prepare for this, but it still feels like what I expected. So yes, there is a disclaimer, and really, it's, again, just to protect themselves. Are there bugs? Yes, but this is a Total War game. If you expect a Total War game without any bugs, then you are very delusional. I will, however, say one thing, that I have found it a lot more stable than the Realm of Chaos campaign, so that is obviously something very positive to say. Where in about 70 hours worth of streaming in a week, I think I only had 3 to 4 crashes, and that's a lot of time, especially for Total War. And no game-breaking bugs, which, let's be honest, if you compare it with the Realm of Chaos map, there were a lot of game-breaking bugs. A lot of game-breaking bugs. Right, so let's talk about the available races, mostly because, you know, there's a lot of them. There's been a lot of them introduced over the many years that this series has been going on, and everyone feels playable. Yes, some of them do have bugs. Yes, some of them do have changes that some people might not be too keen on, but I will say that everyone is fully playable. Hell, they even fixed up Norska a little bit. It's not a full rework, and they said the rework will come eventually, but they fixed up Norska to the point that I actually had fun. And this is a race that I generally avoid. Hell, I've stated many times that not even mods could fix Norska, yet they did make it fun and just playable, and that's a good thing. This is a really good thing. So, if you're looking to play Call Friends, if you're looking to play Oxyodal, if you're looking to play, well, pretty much any of the 86 playable Legendary Lords, they're playable. You can have fun. Some of them are going to feel very much the same, some of them are very different. Some of them had some reworks to them. And yeah, I think that's a good thing. 26 playable race, 86 playable legendary characters. You've got a lot to go through. Do some of them still need reworks? Yes. Do some of them really need a proper overhaul? Yes. This is in general for the races and the factions, but as time progresses, this will happen. This is something that we're already used to, as we've already seen loads of reworks come into effect and fix loads of races. Keep in mind that the Beastmen were once unplayable. Remember, they were the worst race before Norska too. I must say that I do feel very confident with how everything is going, and I would hopefully not be proven wrong because, you know how these things go. But I will be very, very honest with you, prior to getting Immortal Empires and actually playing it, I was losing all hope on the series. I was losing all hope in Creative Assembly, and it was very obvious when some of my videos started coming out where I was being very, very negative. I didn't want this to happen like what happened to Three Kingdoms. The fact is, I have been burnt in the past, not just by Creative Assembly, but by Games Workshop and other studios too. Keep in mind, I'm a Warhammer Fantasy fan. I consider myself a Warhammer Fantasy fan first and a Total War fan second. And Warhammer Fantasy was well destroyed, wasn't it? And not only that, but let's be honest, there's something called the Curse of the Warhammer game, where, you know, the gods just flip a coin and that decides if the Warhammer game is good or bad. And generally, yeah, the Warhammer game is very, very bad. The series has been doing so well, and then this happened with the Realm of Chaos campaign. I was losing hope. I honestly thought, well, I might just give up now, there's no point. But I can happily say that I was wrong. I've played and played and played. Not only the fact that I've been playing a lot on stream and releasing a lot of videos, but I've been playing on my free time. I actually felt like there was a reason to play again. It got to the point after the Realm of Chaos, when the fatigue started kicking in, that I just didn't want to play. Maybe I was playing a little bit here and there, but I wasn't really playing to have fun. I was playing because I felt really invested into the series, because this was the return of Warhammer Fantasy for me. Yet, Immortal Empires came, and I didn't have to deal with silly riffs. I don't have to focus on saving the God Bear or killing the God Bear or whatever, you know? Or, even more importantly, I didn't have to go into that poxy realm of Tzeentch and do that stupid puzzle ever again. I'm sorry, but yeah, there's no sugarcoating it. I really hated the Realm of Tzeentch with a burning passion. Yes, there was mods to fix that, with the whole turn the rifts off and turn the campaign off, but that should have been in base game. That should have been in base game. I'm not trying to sound overly negative here. In fact, I'm only just saying that because I need to echo some sentiments before we jump fully into the Immortal Empires. The story was decent, the prologue was fantastically well written, but we're Total War fans, and some of us are just Warhammer fans. What do we want to see? We want to see monsters, we want to see Skaven, we want to see demons, we want to see them do cool stuff. Because we want a sandbox. Total War is known for the sandbox. We don't want to be following a story, we just want to raise some armies and cause some hell, especially now that we've got access to so many demons, and really, this is what we can do. Now with the Immortal Empires, there's no story that we need to follow. There's some story, obviously, with the whole quest to get your items, but that's kind of expected just to unlock your special gear. But those who just follow Total War want to, you know, play Total War. Yes, it's very different to the historical games, but it's still a very popular series. Those Warhammer Fantasy fans, just Warhammer Fantasy, well, they want to relive the glory days. They want to relive the universe that means so much to them that was taken away from them so unfairly by absolute idiots. Keep in mind that if you're just a Total War fan and don't know the history of Warhammer Fantasy's fail, the reason Warhammer Fantasy died was because of shoddy management. You don't promote the game and you don't make new miniatures, of course nobody's buying new stuff when there's no new stuff to buy. And for the rest of the gamers, they just want to play a fun game. I mean, we all kind of do, don't we? Because at the end of the day, if the game is not fun, we're not going to play it. So what did the majority of us want? We wanted a sandbox. We wanted a big map to fight over, to play loads of different factions. The majority of you are probably just going to play Call Friends over and over, and you know what? That's perfectly fine. Hell, if that's what you want to do, it's your game, nobody can tell you otherwise. But when I look at Total War Warhammer, I look at the many, many different races and factions, hell, some of them that never appeared on the tabletop, but the majority of them did. I see my childhood. I see loads and loads of different characters, miniatures that I wanted to buy or did buy, build up, paint. Hell, a lot of them went to the pile of shame, but this was the universe I fell in love with when I was a kid. This is the universe that I really still mourn for. So being able to see it in a big scope and scale and just playing around with them, sandbox style, like I did with the tabletop. There was no story to follow on the tabletop. This was just one day I'd ask a friend, hey, do you want to play a game? He'd play Dwarfs, I'd play Empire, we'd play against each other. But now in a completely different scale where I'm, mostly playing against the computer because I prefer a single player game, but I get to see those units that I love so much, animated, firing, casting spells. It's something that was really surreal to me. Again, I didn't want a story, I wanted a massive sandbox, and to see it go that way was just disappointing. So, then I kind of lost all hope, And it took a while, but eventually we got to Immortal Empires. I got early access, as you know, I am a Creative Assembly content partner, so I will state here that I did get early access. But I can imagine that you can tell from the tone of this video that it's not really affecting my review in any way, shape, or form. But I was scared. Given how Warhammer 3 launched, I was scared. Especially when they used the beta tag, I honestly got really, really scared. I was thinking, oh god, this is going to be a horrible, buggy mess. Textures aren't going to work. Factions aren't going to work as intended. Nothing's going to work. And yes, there are some issues that we'll get into, but I was pleasantly surprised. I turned on the game at the first day that I got access, and what I expected was to play for an hour or two, as I did have plans to meet up with some friends that day, and I was still sour with the release. Yet, I called my friends and I cancelled. I carried on playing. I carried on playing and playing and playing, and I stayed up all freaking night. I honestly can't even legitimately remember the last time I've done something like that, where I've cancelled plans and just gamed all night. Even without the sour taste in my mouth, I didn't think it was going to be too good, considering the fact that, yes, even Immortal Empires had issues when it was there. You know, turn times were horrible, and I was expecting the turn times to be horrible here too, because let's be honest, the map is huge. Like I said, the map is freaking huge. Yet the turn times were good. They're about 23 seconds on average for me, which I could not expect. Sometimes the load does become a bit of a problem, and sometimes, yes, there are a few frame drops here and there, but nothing that's really been, like, game ending, nothing that's actually made me think I'm going to close this game down and be done with it. Nothing that's made me think that I need to have a break. In fact, if I just got a little bit bored with a campaign, I'd just fire up a new one. And that's what I wanted. That's the feeling I wanted from this. The same thing as I would have with Mortal Empires after the Potion of Speed update, where I could just sit down and play and play and play. Not just to create content, because yes, I do create a lot of content on this game, but I want to play. That's what I did a lot with Warhammer 2, where I would just play. It's not always about creating videos, because yes, creating videos is something that's very important to me and it's important for my channel, but I am a fan of both Total War and Warhammer, as I've stated before, so why wouldn't I just want this to be a game that I can enjoy? Why wouldn't I want this to be a game that I can literally spend hours and hours on? It's all well and good having a channel and having a content creation thing, and it's essentially like a second job, but no. I think about this as a fan first before thinking about it as a content creator. Because it's very important to note that I'm not going to waste my time on something I just don't like. There's just literally no point in that, is there? So yes, what is Immortal Empires? Well, Immortal Empires is what you expected. If you played Mortal Empires before, or even Warhammer 1 base game, then yeah, this is what you're getting. You're getting all the races and factions there as a pure sandbox. If you're used to the old factions, keep in mind that some legendary lords and some factions have had some changes here and there. You're pretty much good to go. You're very much good to go. Do you want to start causing havoc, playing Skaven, and just shooting everything in sight? There you go. The same thing with the Empire. Hell, any faction, the Orcs, cause a massive war. Everything feels like it should. We'll talk about the changes here and there later, but for the grand majority of things, everything feels the same. And that's a good thing. Keep in mind that that is actually a good thing. We were just expecting playing the same races that we were already used to, just in a massive map. Sure, some of the races and factions need help in the future, but again, everything feels the same. I can start up a campaign with the Beastmen since their rework in the Science and the Fury, and just decide, I'm gonna go to Cafe this time. But it's the same thing. It's literally the same thing, and that is exactly what we wanted. We just wanted a bigger map with more options. And obviously new races and factions, which we did get in Warhammer 3, and you can play those factions, the demon factions. Well, now they're considered more monogod factions since the Champions of Chaos, which we'll talk about in a different video, or Kislev, or Cafe. but it's in a huge map. You've got a world to conquer. This, at least to me, feels like the true launch of Warhammer 3. I know a lot of people would think otherwise, and yes, I still like the Realm of Chaos map. The campaign for the Champions of Chaos is actually really, really fun, mostly because it doesn't stick you onto some boring race, which is just very frustrating that nobody wants to do, but this feels like the third part to the series. I don't see it as Game 1, Game 2, Game 3, I see it as Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3. We've just been seeing the map expand further and further and adding new races and factions, because this is what we wanted, this is what we always wanted, or at least this is what I've wanted. The game is in a very stable state from what I've been playing. Immortal Empires feels a lot more stable than the Realm of Chaos, like I've said, but it generally feels very stable. And it comes to repeating again, yes, but that's mostly because it's just surprising. Yeah. Now we have to talk about the things that people seem not to like. Obviously there have been some changes to, for example, the Dark Elf slave mechanic and just a few other things. Keep in mind that these things can change as time progresses. It might not be the most opportunistic thing, but it just basically takes away the cheese. A lot of people like cheesing in Total War because it's very popular, and if people want to see something return or just improved upon, you know, be vocal, because obviously they're going to make changes and sometimes we're not going to like them. For example, when they created the Forge of Dave, we had to be vocal and they did change it. I personally kind of like the slave mechanic changes. It's just something that I feel is okay. I don't think this should be the thing by the end of it. I'm imagining that they're going to have to improve upon it when eventually they do Chaos Dwarfs, where a proper slave mechanic needs to be implemented. Because if this is the final result, it will be very disappointing. However, like I said, I know why people like the other stuff, because it was easy to cheese, you could play around with it, it just gave you more of a feeling of, you know, this is here, I'm already used to it. I don't know, maybe when you guys actually play it for yourselves, you guys might like it more, but I understand it, right? There's a lot of stuff that they've implemented, there's a lot of stuff which could be hit or miss. Right, so now I'm going to talk about the stuff that I don't like, because yes, there's some stuff that I don't like about this. Like, for example, a lot of effort went into loads of different races and factions for a little bit of update, you know, for example, Manfred von Karstein, Volkmar. Yes, it's just copy-pasting mechanics, but if they could easily copy-paste mechanics for certain races and factions, why didn't they do it, say, for example, with Lord Skroke? Lord Skroke is the leader of Clan Pestilence, and no update came there. Again, I still think that's going to happen in the future, because it really needs to happen in the future. I will not stop bugging about this. The plague mechanic is perfect, and it could easily just been ported over. Just rename the plagues and there you go. Kind of like what they did with Festus. It's literally the same thing. Morathi got a nice update, and she can now spread Soneshi corruption, she can recruit demonettes. That's all well and good. I'm honestly really, really happy about that, because it's quite thematic for her. My only issue there is, there are no skills or text to buff up demonettes. This might be a different thing in a live build when the live build comes out, mostly because I've reported it to the devs, but yeah, what's the point of getting the demons if you can't boost them up through any skills or any tech, whereas you can with, say, for example, the Warriors of Chaos, boost up your demons. It's odd. And perhaps the most frustrating thing so far is that the AI feels a little bit too passive. I've spoken to other content creators and streamers and so on, and it just feels like the AI isn't really expanding so much, and yeah, it can be a bit frustrating where you're not really getting into a lot of fights. But I think it's also tied to the faction itself. Maybe their potential was reduced. If you don't know, potential is like a mechanic which makes them active or not. I'm not 100% too sure how it works myself, but it's dependent on the stream or the campaign I've played where, yeah, sometimes they just don't feel like you're getting into a lot of fights. I've seen this in a lot of different situations, and there'll be a video tomorrow which kind of really goes into detail of that without even speaking. Now, this has been mentioned to the devs in the past, so hopefully the live build is a bit different. Keep in mind that anything that you've been seeing on the streams could be fixed. Any issues that have been on streams, on videos, could be fixed by the time that it becomes live, or if not, shortly after. But yeah, the AI being a little passive, I don't know, it's just one of these things which is hard to replicate, because sometimes when you try to replicate it, it just doesn't want to do it, it just ends up being a normal campaign. I don't really have a lot to complain about. I've been having a lot of fun. If I didn't, I wouldn't be streaming 8 hours a day when I generally just stream 4 hours when it comes to normal content drops. But I've been having a lot of fun. It feels like this is the actual true release of Total War Warhammer 3. It feels like we're finally getting to the point of we're seeing the world map, we're seeing loads of things come to fruition, we're seeing this long journey that we've all been taking part on for many years finally nearing its end. Well, hopefully with many years of DLC to come, as they stated. But yeah, I'm actually really excited, and it's really weird. I had put my defenses up when I first got early access, like I said, and I just wasn't expecting to have so much fun. I'm hoping that this stays the same and it doesn't break upon release or anything, or just like a patch breaks something. But so far, so good. So far, so good. I'm really, really hoping that this brings the community back. A lot of players were missing, let's be honest. A lot of players stopped. A lot of players went either back to Warhammer 2 or just stopped completely. I really hope this brings the player base back, and that we all of us, not just myself, but you guys too, feel more hope for the future. Because if we want more DLC, if we want more races, if we want more factions, if we want this legendary lord or that legendary hero or this unit, we obviously have to play, but not if it's in a bad state. So all I can say is I like it. I really, really like it. And I'm hoping for the best. Maybe it's hopium, like a lot of people are calling it, but I've honestly had a lot of fun. And I'm not doing this in the whole sense of shilling to Creative Assembly, because you haven't noticed, I don't do this whole, oh, pre-order Champions of Chaos, support my channel, blah, 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 use this link. I don't do that. Many people have been asking me for affiliate links and all that, and I just say, look, I don't have one. I don't believe in that type of thing, because while I would like to do it, yes, it does help the channel, I will be very honest, I just don't like putting that up there, because I'm a firm believer of no pre-order until you've seen a lot of stuff, and there's no point of putting a pre-order link on the second day or the last day, because at that point, you know, everyone's already done it because they've seen the hype somewhere else, and they've been, oh yeah, but what if it ends up being crap? Yeah? What if it ends up being crap? So yeah, I think it's just better if I don't put those links on my videos and I speak to you in a very honest sense. And I think if you've seen the whole video, you would have gotten a sense of honesty from me. I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm hoping that the future is bright for Total War Warhammer 3. I'm hoping that we'll see all the stuff that we've all been hoping for and dreaming for. I'm just really happy that I have my Warhammer fantasy. Yes, it's not the same thing, but this is still a interpretation of the universe I grew up with, and this is something that I always wished that we'd have when I was a little kid. You know, a total war game where it's just open, massive scale with all the different possible races and factions, and I could spend hours beyond hours on, and I can here. And I feel like Immortal Empires will give me more of that. But anyways, I feel like I've taken enough of your time, as you guys have a few hours to go, obviously, until the release. You're probably all thinking about calling in sick, or taking a last-minute day off, or buying snacks for a gaming marathon. I hope it's everything that you guys want. I hope it's everything that you guys wanted. And yeah, I'll see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.